Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast. I'm your host, Jack Randall, here alongside my co-host, Mr. Michael Ketchen. What was that smirk for? You don't like my intro?
I'm here. I'm just glad I'm a mister again. The last couple of weeks, it's just been Michael Ketchen. He's throwing us all off after 50 episodes.
Yeah, I have to mix it up. Keep people on their toes, you know?
Well, 1 week he didn't even say your name.
That is true. That's producer Jake for those at home. So
I blacked out. No big deal.
He's chiming in more because I can't be left alone with Jack anymore. It's just too much. It's too much for me.
Smart.
All right, man.
Today we're talking. What?
I said go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Today we're talking with Ian Martin. Ian originally hails from Massachusetts, but has spent the majority of his adult life in Colorado until moving back to the Boston area in 2019 to pursue his passion of real estate, coupled with the goal of expediting his financial freedom targets. He's the owner of Baseline Development, which primarily specializing in condo conversions around the Boston area and buying and holding rental properties for long-term investments and cash flow. When he's not focused on learning more about the ever-evolving real estate industry, he enjoys traveling with his partner, Heather, and dog, Cody, snowboarding, and doing a little too much of his own do-it-yourself projects. But before we get into Ian's episode, Mike, what's going on in the business these days?
I'm here. We're recording this early May. I'll say I'm here in Savannah. You might see a different background around me. I'm actually out in the field looking at Airbnbs in South Carolina, looking for our next luxury Airbnb. So we'll be sure to update the community about that. So pretty exciting. What do you got cooking?
So Airbnbs are going live this weekend. One of them, closing on the other one in a week or so when this airs, I think. So it's a little stressful, a little different than a multifamily, but learning the ropes. And Carrie's very active in that, so it's fun to get her on board. And also doing a bunch of refis. So the apartment that I bought a year ago. So we've been doing this for a year now as of last week's episode. So congratulations, Mike, on that. Great work.
Yeah, 1 year. Woo-hoo.
1 year. Doing the refi on that one. So hopefully that'll be closing shortly. I think I have everything I need, but haven't seen the clear to close yet. So should be a few days away. But so a lot going on, but getting after it.
I say, speaking of a lot going on, our guest we have on today, one of my absolute favorite people, and Ian, and he's got a lot of this going on. So many actionable tips in this episode, so many relatable tips, and also just showing how a mindset shift and just taking action can catapult you to the lifestyle that you want to build, like we talk about here all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I just ski bum to corporate America to financial time freedom and just creating his own business, working on his own time.
And I'm sure to go back to being a ski bum. So it's funny how life comes full circle.
with the goal of being a ski bum again eventually.
on his terms. So I love it. So before we get to this great episode of Jack, should we hear this week's episode is brought to us by?
Let's do it.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
Okay, so Ann is the owner and founder of Baseline Development, which primarily specializes in condo conversions around the Boston area and buying and holding rental properties for long-term investments and cash flow. Now, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, Ann reached out to you while I was living in Colorado, and that's how the connection was made, right?
Yes, Ian, actually, to be fair, I thought Ian was a much bigger deal than he was, so I invited him to the meetup. We hung out. Little hipster walks in, and I'm like, all right, well, this is not what I thought. No, we actually, a cool story to kick it off. Ian's one of the first investors, actually, I think the first investor I met through social media, and then we connected, and he's just an all-around great guy and even better investor, and I can't thank him enough for being here. So I'm pretty pumped to have you, buddy.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, guys. And right back at you. You're the first guy I actually met in real life through social media off Instagram.
Hey, look at that. We're real people.
Yeah.
We're really doing it. And I
Good,
think
you
I
didn't
only
get
yelled.
catfished.
Yeah, I think I only yelled at him like 10 minutes in the first meeting. I was like, "What are you doing? Get out of Massachusetts." You know? But Ian, like Jack said, thank you for being here. And you know, no pressure, but we expect this episode to be better than Centerline Development, Adam Jeffs' episode. You know, you two are buddies, so I got to get a little ribbing in there right away. So why don't you tell the people who are listening to the Tell Us Why community and Tell Us Why podcast, where you at with Built by Baseline today? Where you at in your business?
Yeah, so like I was saying before we hopped on, kind of in acquisition mode, but also doing some dispositions too. Since the beginning of the year, so in the last 5 months, acquired 5 different multifamily properties. All of them but one was basically intended to be a condo conversion, which is kind of the strategy that I employ a lot in Boston, which is basically buying up the old multifamily housing stock and then doing full gut renovations, and on the tail end, we sell them off as condos, and that's the exit strategy. One of those was intended to be a rental property. With the way the market is right now, that's actually going to get sold off too, and I'll reinvest that money. Basically, the way I looked at it was like I can make $800 a month on that, but I can probably make a hell of a lot more money selling it off quickly, and it would take me like 50 years to make back what I would make if I just sold it as a flip. The other one, Jack, you actually saw that 6 unit probably like 6 weeks ago. Like 2 weeks after we bought that thing, we had another investor walk through, and he offered us basically an absurd amount of money that we'd be dumb to turn down if we, wouldn't sell it. So we're going to sell that one too. And
really?
Into more rentals. Yeah.
With no work done to it, or are you going to fix it up and then sell it?
No, literally have not even removed the old tenant's belongings. Like, he walked through it, and he made us an offer right away. And like I said, we'd be dumb to turn it down.
Wow.
So let's pause for a second and let's explain this to the community, because this is a real life example of what we always talk about. You make your money on the buy.
Yeah.
So what Ian did here was Ian found an opportunity, found a spread, and also was smart enough to recognize multiple exit strategies. So you're already showing investors. Yes, your ARV is based on doing a full gut reno, but you're more concerned with your spread. And what people don't realize is sometimes you make more money without doing any work because you buy it right versus taking all the risk, all the uncertainty. You know, don't put yourself in that one exit strategy. Can you explain a little bit how that all went down to the community and some tips and tricks on that deal?
Sure, yeah. So that was an off-market deal. It was brought to us by a broker we've worked with in the past. He knows we like to buy off-market stuff, and we can move quick. Basically, he had shown it to other people who offered higher than we did, but the seller wanted to move it really quick for whatever reason. So we closed that thing in, I think it was 14 days, or might have been 12 actually. It was a really quick turnaround, and honestly, that was more important to the seller than the higher price point. So we got it for a really good deal. We paid hard money for it, so not a great interest rate, but really low purchase price. And the same broker that sold it to us basically had a couple other people walk through and was like, I got some people who might be interested if you guys want to get rid of it before you even do any work. The plan was to do not even a full gut to it, which is what we would normally do, but it was already gut renovated in 1998. So it's in good rental condition. We wanted to sell it off as condos though, so we would have gone in and done some improvements to it, spent around like $400,000 or $500,000 on it. But this guy just wants to rent it out kind of as is, and he offered us much more than we thought it was probably worth. And like I said, just kind of dumb to not accept it. So that's kind of the story behind it.
Yep. And to stay with the Jack, did you want to jump in there?
No, I just
cut you off.
Just wanted to touch on one thing real quick. It's just a quick close. Like, people always think that it's always the money. Like, everybody always wants the highest price. That's not always the case. And I feel like if new investors in the real estate space often think that it's the money. And sometimes it's that quick close. It's having the no financing contingency. Sometimes it's conditions that you don't even think of, like the seller financing deals. Like, they just want to get rid of the headache. Like, if they just have cash flow, if they can get cash flow, you can work a seller finance deal. Like, it's not always the money. I just wanted to throw that out there because you just gave a perfect example of where that was the case. So
yeah, absolutely. It was a super clean offer, no contingencies, quick close. Guy's like 89 years old. He's killing it. And I think, he just wanted to take the money and run.
Yep. And to go back and listen to everything Ian just said, there's so many things to unpack that as you get more seasoned in this business, you realize, first and foremost, understanding the relationship aspect. The broker knew he could perform. So because Ian has a stellar reputation with him and his team, that broker is bringing him business now. Now, the buyer, what I want to touch on real quick is that buyer. A lot of people when they first get into space, they only look through their own lens and they go, oh, this guy overpaid and this guy did that. And what I always say, I always harp on, you don't know someone's situation. All you can know is your situation. This buyer who bought it as is, maybe he's in a 1031. Maybe he likes the area. Maybe it's, he's got a play in that neighborhood. Maybe he's got 20 other units around us, economies of scale. That's not what Ian's concerned about. Ian's concerned with what is my return? What is my ROI? What did I buy it for? What can I flip it for? What are my exit strategies? And then the last point you touched on there, we haven't spent a lot of money on, but hard money and the ability to use creative finance. Too often, and Jack knows how I feel about this, too often people become what I call spreadsheet wizards, okay? A lot of money has been lost over the last 5 years being concerned with an interest rate in a spreadsheet instead of fucking action in the streets. And it's one of the biggest things I harp on because it's an excuse. It's a way to play it safe. It's a way to sit on the sidelines and talk about what you coulda, shoulda, and woulda. Ian's out there actually making it happen, betting on himself, and that's why he gets, no risk it, no biscuit. So just a great story there, which is a perfect way to segue. How did this all start? Because again, for those at home, you don't see the flowing locks, the snowboarding hippie out in Colorado. How did we get here?
Can we touch on that for a second
start?
before we get into this? Like Ian's picture, I don't know where it was. It's got to be like LinkedIn or something like that. It's like this clean cut, like nice beard. And I go to meet him and I walk in and I see him with like the hair. And I'm like, oh, is he in here?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I'm going to throw a plug really quick. I'm actually donating the hair. That's why I'm growing it out. I'm donating it.
Awesome. Tell us about it.
Wigs for Kids. Well, it's a sad story. Basically, my sister-in-law passed unexpectedly from cancer in her mid-30s not too long ago, just 2 years ago, actually, this month. And one of the hardest parts for her was just losing her hair when she was doing the chemo. So this is going to somebody else in her honor. So yeah, it's not what I normally look like. Honestly, I'm pretty sick of it too, and I want to get rid of it. I'm excited to have short hair again, look like you guys. But no, there's a good story behind it.
That's an awesome.
That's pretty amazing. That's good for you.
No, I won't be able to call you Thor anymore. But yeah, no. Again, and I'm laughing at another quick Ian story just because we're busting on him here, and that's why I love this guy staying humble, staying hungry. I close on the 111 unit. So he's one of the first guys to come out. And again, this is why I answer the phone when Ian calls. Because when Ian says he's going to do something, he actually does. A lot of guys blow smoke. They waste time. We come out. We chop it up. We have a good conversation. So here's this guy selling multi-million-dollar condos in Boston, driving around this beater truck. He's driving back from Rochester, New Hampshire to Somerville. The truck explodes on the side of the highway. It takes him 9 hours to get home. At one point I thought he was dead. I'm like, Ian, are you okay? You gotta make it. But so buy a new car, take some of these proceeds, 1031, roll into a new vehicle. Let's make it happen.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Yeah, I actually wound up sitting in my truck for almost 12 hours on the side of the highway because AAA was dicking me around, and it was 9 degrees out by the time. Not kidding, it was 9 degrees in the cabin of the truck. And I participated in your webinar, your luxury Airbnb part 2 webinar from my truck, freezing.
Imagine. So producer Jake has no excuses then. So I love that. Thank you, Ian. So on that note, we started to get into it. So where does Built by Baseline come up? How does this all kick off? How does this start?
So yeah, I did the snowboarder hippie thing for a while. I lived in Vail, Colorado after I went to college, actually. Moved to be a professional ski bum for 4 years, making $9 an hour. Realized I couldn't do that for the rest of my life. Moved to Denver and got a job at a real estate marketing company, and kind of worked my way up the ladder a little bit and became an account manager. And my favorite clients were always the developer clients or flippers, and just kind of started talking with them a lot to see what the hell they did, and realized I could probably do that on the side, actually. And it was about that time I realized, or I heard about Bigger Pockets. And Bigger Pockets is actually headquartered in Denver, and it happened to be headquartered a block away from my old office, which is super weird. So I started going to their meetups, and I linked up with a dude that was doing flips and started flipping properties with him. And that was kind of the start of Built by Baseline. I had a rental property before that too, though, that was making me some money on the side. And I realized I could kind of stack a few of those together to replace my income and eventually leave my W-2. And that's what I did. So Took me about 2 years to do it, but made it happen.
I love that. Absolutely love that mindset. Yeah.
So I mean, what prompted that? Just like making $9 an hour, you could realize you couldn't make a living off of that, or is it something that did something else switch? And
you want to know the why?
The why?
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. I'm struggling to how to phrase it.
Yeah, basically. So I lived in vacation land for a while, moved to Denver, tried to get a big boy job. I did get a big boy job. And I always told myself growing up, I never wanted to wear a suit to work, and I never wanted to work in a cubicle. And once I started getting higher up in that company, I was an account executive by the end of it. And I started having to go to like these real estate conferences and like do the, presentations in front of like these high level executives from real estate brokerages, and was wearing a suit and like traveling and staying in hotels by myself. And I just absolutely hated it. Like despised getting up for work in the morning. It was disgusting. I hated myself for like even doing what I was doing. It was like going against everything I wanted to do. And yeah, basically the side hustle of like flipping houses started to exceed my W-2 income. And it's like, at what point do you make a change? But really, I just wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted to work for myself, provide for myself, provide for me and mine and others along the way, and just do it on my own terms. So like I said, like my sister-in-law passed from cancer in her mid-30s. My father had a heart attack. He's 69, but he's still kicking. He's good. But literally the day after he had a heart attack, I walked into his hospital room, and he's sitting up on his bed on his laptop working. And I was like, dude, there's no way, no chance in hell that I'm going to do that when I'm 69 years old. I'm planning on dropping out of the whole like work thing a lot earlier than that, and just want to work for fun. But, mad respect for my father. He did everything he could to provide for, he gave me, my sister, my brother, an amazing upbringing, but there's no chance I'm doing that. So I just want to do it on my own terms. And that's kind of why, when I realized I could stack the rental properties and make the cash flow, I just kind of went full force into that.
All right.
That's a really good story.
Crazy. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was watching it's a stupid movie. I'm gonna bring it up anyway, but the movie Office Space, have you guys seen that from like 1999?
Yeah, big inspiration for me, actually. I make it a point to watch it every year.
Seriously, it is. Like, that's what I hated. Like the opening scene when the guy's in traffic and he's going 3 feet, slamming on the brakes, another 3 feet, slamming on the brakes. Like, I felt like that was my life working corporate America. Like, sitting an hour and a half on the train each way, I was like, oh, it's just a waste of my time.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's something to kind of go a little technical, a little higher level than what we usually do, just because I think this relates to you maybe more than anyone else, Ian, that we've had on recently. I'd be curious. We're talking about, offices and going to work and commuting, and obviously COVID and remote work. With these rising interest rates, are they affecting the luxury condo market at all? Supply and demand still so out of whack? You guys aren't even seeing a dip.
I haven't seen anything happen yet. I don't have anything on the market right now personally, but honestly, there's still buyers out there, and it's still crazy. Like, I have friends, obviously in the space. You mentioned Adam, shout out to Centerline. I mean, we're still selling things like crazy. It hasn't been affected yet. I do think that we'll see some leveling off personally, but as of right now, demand is still crazy.
All right, well, that's awesome. And speaking of demand, it's watching you guys' growth. I mean, I'm always inspired by seeing the two of you guys on social media. So definitely make sure you check out Adam, make sure you check out Ian, go from there. So it's a perfect transition into talking about this growth and kind of how you came up. Question I like to ask every guest every week: what is one book or resource you recommend for the Tell Us Why community?
I always tell people Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur by James Randall. It has a lot to do. Yeah, it's a good one. You should check it out. It's a little bit more intense. Like, I would read it actually as a new investor, but basically it's about like, he's actually a real estate attorney. But he talks a lot about like the entitlement process, which I do in Boston as well, but basically like taking underutilized plots of land and getting them entitled for bigger and higher uses. So he used to basically he used to do a lot of like market research and target towns and metropolitan areas where he could like buy big plots of land and then get them under contract and go to like Walmart and Target and big conglomerations like that and sell them these plots of land for like huge money.
It's now time for the Big 3 segment, brought to you by QS Private Lending. Are you looking to finance your next deal quickly and reliably with less hassle and paperwork? QS Private Lending is one of the oldest and largest hard money lenders to real estate investors in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Our quick and simple short-term loans require no appraisals and have enabled hundreds of builders and investors to profitably acquire and renovate thousands of residential and commercial properties. To experience the QS difference for yourself, call or text Luke Conroy today at 315-323-0250. That's 315-323-0250. QS Private Lending.
Okay, so now it is time for the big three. And these are the three questions we ask every guest every week. And I will kick it off with a college question. So in your opinion, is college worth it? Excluding lawyers, doctors.
Yes. So no, not yes. Yes, your lawyers and doctors. No, for me personally, it was absolutely not worth it. So I grew up in a family basically where it was like after high school, you go to college. And honestly, I was so naive, like as a 17, 18-year-old teenager, I didn't even know that like not going to college was a thing. And not even had the option. So I went to college not knowing what the hell I wanted to do. After year two, it's like you got to make a decision. Otherwise, you're going to be there for another semester or another year and you got to pay for it unless you figure out a major and nail it down. So I actually decided to major in advertising. Never in my life have I used that degree, and I don't think I will after school. Like I said, I went into vacation land for 4 years and then I figured it out. So if anything, I would say, well, I know the next question and I'll touch on that, but yeah, no, for me, it's not. For some people, if you know what you want to do, it might be, but yeah. So honestly, it depends.
All right. Well, let's throw that. Yeah. Well, let's throw that next question at you then. What is one piece of actionable advice you go back and give your 18-year-old self?
So I would go to way more networking events. I would try and so your last guest actually said that she would do a gap year or recommend doing a gap year. And that was actually no joke. That was my answer. And I heard her interview yesterday when I was driving around and I was like, oh shit, I can't say that, but I do very much condone that.
Is that Bonnie?
Very much condone that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or a leap year, as Jack kept calling it.
Yeah,
which
right.
is just there's one extra day in February.
Whatever.
Gap year, try and figure yourself out, try and figure out what you want to do. Go to networking events, like expand your sphere of influence. And if you can, just figure out, if you do figure out what you want to do, just try and get in with a network of people who are already doing that and just get an internship instead of going to college.
Great advice.
Love it.
Great advice.
Hit him with the hot one, Jeff.
All right. So what is one thing you would want your 90-year-old self to say to you?
Honestly, just that you lived and you made an impact, a good impact on a lot of people. That's extremely important, I think, to just leave the world a better place than you found it and just kind of go out with a bang. I just want to know that I lived, man, because what else is it for then?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Ian, where can people learn more about you and get in touch with you?
You can email me, my first name, Ian, IAN, @builtbybaseline.com. And I'm on Instagram at baseline_development. I'm not super active on posting on there, but I am active on there and actually connect with a lot of people on there who are in my industry. So yeah, shoot me a message on there.
All right. And before we let you go, is there anything else you'd want to tell our listeners?
Yes.
Oh.
What you focus on expands. Just think about
Like
it. What you focus on expands. So if you're in a negative mindset or you're working a job you don't like, you got to change the mindset. It'll change your life. I guarantee it.
That is words
like that
to
a
live
lot.
by. Words to live by. Jack, where can people learn more about the Tell Us Why podcast?
You got to check out our website, telluswhypodcast.com. New forum up top. Click on that. Check that out. If you don't already follow us on social media, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. All the links are in the description below.
Yep, and Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, please click, like, subscribe, leave a rating and review. It all helps. Jack, quote of the week.
Quote of the week. Got an Ani Palmer quote here. The road to success is always under construction.
It's a really good one.
Oh, love that.
Like it. And that is it for today. Be sure to join us for next week's episode. And until next week.
Bet on yourself.